Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Blake. I run the Social Development and Learning Lab in the College of Arts and Sciences, Psychological and Brain Sciences department. First, thank you for having me. I think this has been amazing, and I've seen a lot of really fascinating work, and I definitely want to talk to you about your growth mindset stuff. So when we talk about improving children's well-being, something went wrong. Okay. We often are talking about negative behaviors and how we can change them and improve those outcomes. But well-being also depends on cultivating positive behaviors, and often positive and negative behaviors have different causes and different mechanisms underlying them. So my research tries to take an integrated view. We use experiments to isolate specific behaviors and see if we can change them. And when possible, we test children in diverse societies to understand how cultural factors impact the development of these social variables, so the social behaviors. So I'll tell you about a couple of studies that exemplify this approach. So in the first study, we were testing whether there were cultural differences in learning how much you should give to a peer. So we tested children in Boston and in rural India, using a site that has been run for over a decade by my colleague, Tara Callaghan. And in the control condition, we gave children 10 candies, and we told them they could keep them all or give some to another child who we will meet later. And then in two experimental conditions, children were either watched as their parent either gave a low amount of candy to an adult or a high generous amount of candy to another adult, and then the child got to give to a peer. So what you're looking at on the figures here, the gray bars are giving different amounts in the control condition compared to the colored bars. The selfish is on your left, that's the red bars. So one thing we found here was that in both the US and in India, children would give less after they saw their parent give less relative to the control condition. But for the generous model, when they watched their parent give more, children in the US were unmoved. They did not give more, but children in India did give more and often gave almost as much as the parent did. The parent gave 9 out of 10 items to the other person. So one conclusion we can draw from this is that learning to be generous seems to be more affected by cultural norms and values than learning to be selfish. So the second study is looking at the development of fairness across societies. And we're looking at two sides of fairness, whether you receive less or whether you receive more. And to do this, we designed an experiment that involved two children sitting face to face, and the experimenter would put unequal amounts of candy on the trays of the apparatus up there. And the children would have to, one child would have a chance to decide whether to accept or reject the offer of candy. If they accepted, then both children would get whatever was on the trays facing them. But if they rejected, no one would get anything. Now in the getting less condition, the deciding child got 1 candy and the partner, the peer child, got 4. And in the giving more condition, the child who decided got 4 candies and the child facing them got 1. So in both cases, the child who made the decision had to sacrifice candy in order to prevent an unequal outcome from occurring. And the results here show an asymmetry. There was also a control condition that I'm leaving out here. But this shows an asymmetry between getting less and getting more. In all of the countries, children were willing to reject that 1 candy to prevent the peer from getting more than them. And this increased with age. Mexico is a bit of an outlier, but they still showed the effect. And in the getting more condition, this appeared less often, only in 3 countries, US, Canada, and Uganda. And it appeared later in development when it appeared at all. So from this, this again shows that there's this negative behavior, denying the child in front of you 4 candies. That seems to be common across culture, but the positive behavior, that big sacrifice when you're getting more, is more rare and is subject to cultural variation and other factors that we're still exploring. So I'm going to end there and just end without that takeaway that both positive and negative behaviors contribute to children's well-being. And we can explore them in the same experimental design if we think about it properly. And we can discover different mechanisms that influence the pathways of development. None of this work was done alone. Those are my key collaborators, my own group that does research across cultures, my lab, and my funder, John Templeton Foundation, which I highly recommend looking into for the positive sides of behavior. You can flip what you're talking about, talk about resilience, for example. Thank you.